Through history, humanity has developed many board games that have gone to become staples of entire cultures. The Sumerians gave us backgammon, the Chinese gave us Go, the Indians gave us chess, and now, our collective globalized culture is developing its own contribution to the history of board games, the hidden identity game. Although you might know it as Among Us, or Mafia, or Werewolf, or Secret Hitler, or Mysterium, or One Night, or Avalon, or Coup, or Shadow over Camelot, or Fake Artist, or Dead of Winter, or Crossfire, or You Are the Bomber, or... All of these games are actually variations of the same game, created in 1986 by Dima Davidov in the Soviet Union, and they all share the same core ideas. Each player has an identity. At least one player has a secret identity. Each round, the players will secretly choose one interaction they can make based on their identity. The players will analyze and discuss the interactions done in each round and vote for whom they think has the secret identity. If by the end of the rounds they have correctly chosen the person with the secret identity, they win. If not, the person with the secret identity is the one who wins. As you can see, there's a lot of ambiguity here. What are the identities? What are the interactions? How do players vote? How many rounds are there? But I would argue that this level of ambiguity is actually normal when a new game is born. Take chess for example. Originally it had ambiguity in the kinds of pieces, the arrangement of the board, pieces being promoted and turning into other pieces, even the number of players. All this ambiguity led to the creation of many similar games. Chaturanga in India, Shogi in Japan, Xiangqi in China, Tamerlane Chess in Central Asia, among many other variants, until modern-day chess was invented in either Spain or southern Italy sometime around the 1400s. Similar things have happened with pretty much any other popular board game. They change and mutate as they become more and more popular, until one of two things happen. Either they are forgotten like Ludo, or they arrive at a stable form like backgammon. And in case you are wondering, Ludo used to be a massively popular game in ancient China, but you've never heard of it, and that's the point. All this change and experimentation is exactly what is happening to the hidden identity game. Although I think we should talk about the name for a second. You see, I'm about to argue that a bunch of different games are actually variants of the same game, but calling it hidden identity game every time is kinda cumbersome. The creator originally called it Mafia, but then changed it to Werewolf. But neither really stuck, and people don't really associate those names with these kinds of games. So I'm just gonna call them collectively Heath. Who knows, maybe it'll stuck. The first version of Heath was created in the Soviet Union in 1986 by Dima Davidov, who was back then a psychology student, but he was also a high school teacher. As he explains, he wanted to create an activity that would consume the most amount of time with the least amount of input. It had to be independent of any outside organization like school, and it had to require minimal preparation. At first, he tried to have his students come up with secret deals, and then have the rest of the class try to guess what the secret deal was. But very soon he realized that it was a lot more interesting to try to find out who had secret deals than what the secret deals actually were. Dima started creating a game around this idea, and he called it Mafia, although later he changed the name to Werewolf. But remember that I'm calling the first version, along with all the other subsequent versions, just Heath. You can actually read the original rules of the game written by Dima himself. Link in the description. But if you have played any version of Heath, it's pretty much what you expect. At the time, Dima lived in the biggest dorm in Moscow, with thousands of other students, and as you can imagine, there were parties every day. Dima taught the game to many people at these parties, and soon the game took life of its own and it began to spread and change. Nearly everyone who talks about the original rules of this game continues by talking about the many variations that were created shortly after. For example, in Wikipedia, the sections for optional roles and variations are actually longer than the rest of the article. Because, as it happened with chess, People began experimenting, adding new rules and interactions, but always respecting the core idea of the game. However, there is one extra way in which games like this change over time. I play Heath for the first time 29 years after Dima invented it. And you guessed it, it was at a party in a college dorm. I played this game all through college, and every time we would explain the rules to new players, there would always be someone who said, "Wait, that's not how I learned it." And so we would have to make compromises between the rules that everyone present knew and expected. The result was that Heath was different every time, and as we played with slightly different sets of rules, some more fun than others, my university started developing its own version of the game. But it was always the same game. Personally, I never thought about Heath as a board game, until a friend of mine introduced me to Coop and Avalon. It was basically the same game I had played many times. The rules were a little different, but I was used to that, and the cards and tokens made it easy to keep track of what was going on and making cheating a little bit harder. But not too much. Over the years, many other people have had the same idea to turn Heath into a board game, while also experimenting with the rules, resulting in the myriad of versions I mentioned at the beginning. But I never thought about Heath as a video game until, well, Among Us is the latest iteration of Heath, and being a video game is quite useful because I for one am really bad at reading other people's emotions, and I'm really bad at concealing mine, so everyone could always tell if I was the werewolf or the assassin or the secret Hitler or, you get it, the imposter. It's also neat that there are mechanics related to keeping the spaceship working, because it gives more possibilities for the imposter to be clever, but it also gives more possibilities for the others to find them. But why is Heath, in any of its variations, so popular right now? I mean, this is a game that could have been invented at any point in history, but it wasn't. I think it's because we are becoming a more social culture. Think about it. All these other games, Go, chess, checkers, they are all two-player games, and you need to buy the pieces and the boards to play them. In contrast, you can play Heath with all of your friends, and you don't need to buy anything to play it, which is great for poor college students who still want to have fun. For that reason, Heath becoming an online game that you can play with your friends even if they are far away or with strangers from all over the world perfectly fits our modern globalized society. Does that mean that Among Us finally did it? Is this the definite version of Heath? I doubt it. Personally, I imagine that centuries into the future, the crews of spaceships will play Heath much like I did in college, without pieces nor anything, as they wait to cross the vast distances between space stations. Besides, Heath is a very new game. It is only 34 years old. For comparison, it took chess centuries to settle in its final form. So, sadly, I don't think that any of us alive right now will ever play the definite version of Heath, the one that humanity collectively chooses as the best one. But that's fine, because that means that we get to be part of the adventure of creating a new game. Who knows what innovations will be developed and who knows what names these new versions will have. It is even possible that Heath is not here to stay. Plenty of board games that were massively popular at one point were later forgotten, like the Egyptian Senet, the Chinese Lugo, or the Roman Latrones. All these games were so popular that nobody bothered to write down the rules, because they were so popular that everyone knew them. And yet, today we have no idea of how to play any of these games. So maybe Heath will be forgotten, or maybe it will be played thousands of years into the future. But regardless, what I think is true no matter what, is that it is our game. We made it together, so enjoy! Thanks a lot for watching, I hope you liked that video, and if you did, I have many other videos about many different topics, so here they are for you.